Montana Military Heritage Museum, October 12, 1989, 11:30 in the morning. Tom Brennan stands before an empty display case, his hands trembling slightly as they grip the walnut stock of a rifle that has outlived empires. He is 66 years old. The weapon in his hands is 46. Together, they carry the weight of 793 souls. Dr. Margaret Sullivan, the museum director, asks the question that will define this moment. Her voice is professional, curious, unknowing. "Mr. Brennan, how many men did this rifle kill?" Tom looks down at the Lee Enfield No. 4 Mark I serial number 47 C8492. The wood is scarred. The metal shows wear from thousands of rounds fired. The bore is clean despite decades of use. His finger, trained by muscle memory, rests along the trigger guard in the position of eternal readiness. 793 confirmed, Tom says. His voice is flat, empty of inflection. Maybe 900 total. I stopped counting the ones I wasn't certain about. He pauses and something flickers behind his eyes. Something like pain or perhaps relief. But it also saved 17 lives, including mine, 47 times. Dr. Sullivan writes this down in her notebook, treating these numbers like historical data points, rather than what they truly are. Graves, widows, children who grew up without fathers. Tom's hands shake harder now. The museum is quiet. October light filters through tall windows, illuminating dust particles that drift like snow. Like the snow that fell on Hill 166 in Korea 38 years ago. Like the snow that turned red before noon on February 16, 1951. Cut to Korea. February 16, 1951. 0540 hours. Hill 166, 12 kilometers northeast of Chipyongni. The same rifle. The same man, but 38 years younger. Everything else is different. Private Tom Brennan crouches in a hastily reinforced firing position. The temperature is -8 degrees Celsius. His breath forms small clouds that dissipate immediately in the pre-dawn darkness. His hands, wrapped in wool gloves, with the trigger fingers cut away, rest on the same walnut stock. The rifle's metal is cold enough to burn exposed skin. Below him in the valley, 800 meters distant, 2,000 Chinese troops are massing for assault. Tom can see them through the darkness, a vast formation that seems to have no end. Movement, shadow, the quiet rustle of 2,000 men preparing to kill. In 17 minutes, Tom will begin killing them. In 46 minutes, 793 enemy soldiers will be dead, and Tom Brennan will begin dying inside. The rifle between these two moments, between 1951 and 1989, between killing and confession, will never fail once. Not a single malfunction. Not a single jam. Not even a misfeed across 4,347 rounds fired in combat. The man carrying it will fail every day after. This is the story of how a weapon designed when Queen Victoria still ruled Britain became the most feared rifle in Korea. How a Montana rancher found his dead father's ghost engraved in a serial number. How 793 deaths purchased 17 lives. And how a man spent 38 years learning the difference between reliability and humanity. But first, we need to understand something crucial. Tom Brennan did not join the Canadian Army to serve his country. He did not enlist out of patriotic duty or adventure or the naive romanticism of youth. Tom Brennan joined the Canadian Army for one reason only: to find his father's rifle. The rifle that was supposed to bring Corporal Robert Brennan home from Sicily in 1943. The rifle that didn't. Montana, near the Canadian border, the town of Shelby, September 17, 1943. Tom Brennan is 20 years old when the telegram arrives. His mother, Margaret, Canadian-born, opens the Western Union envelope with hands that somehow already know what's inside. The telegram is brief. Military communications always are. Corporal Robert Brennan killed in action, Sicily, September 15, 1943. Stop. Died heroically in service of his country. Stop. Our deepest condolences. Stop. Margaret Brennan does not cry. Not then. She folds the telegram, carefully places it in her apron pocket, and continues preparing dinner for her son. Tom watches his mother move through the kitchen with mechanical precision, and he understands without being told that his father is never coming home. The grief will come later. For both of them. It will come in waves that never quite recede. But in this moment, there is only the terrible clarity of loss. Margaret never remarries. The footlocker containing Robert's effects arrives 6 weeks later. She places it in the attic unopened. When you're older, she tells Tom, when you've had time to understand what it can, wait 7 years. In January 1950, age 27, he asks his mother if he can open the footlocker. She brings it down from the attic without a word. The lock is rusted but functional. Inside, wrapped in oilcloth, Tom finds his father's uniform, his medals, and 73 letters. 62 letters that Robert Brennan wrote home from the war. 11 letters that Robert received from his platoon sergeant, a man named William Hayes, written after the Sicily campaign ended. Tom reads through the night. His mother sits in the kitchen, drinking coffee, listening to her son discover his father through words written a decade ago. Robert's letters paint a picture of war that Tom will not fully understand until he experiences it himself. The fear, the boredom, the sudden violence, the friendships forged in extremity. But one line appears again and again in 12 different letters spanning 18 months of combat. My Lee Enfield serial number 47C8492 is the only thing I trust completely out here. Sergeant Hayes's letters, written after Robert's death, are different. They are careful, formal, trying to comfort a widow and a fatherless son. But one letter dated October 3rd, 1943, contains a passage that Tom will carry with him for the rest of his life. Your husband's rifle killed 18 Germans the day he died. It kept firing after he couldn't. Robert went down covering our evacuation from a German machine gun position. He silenced that gun with 12 shots, then held the position while we got our wounded out. Artillery got him during the withdrawal. But that rifle, Margaret, that rifle didn't fail him. War failed him. Bad luck failed him. But his Lee Enfield, it kept working right up until the moment he couldn't pull the trigger anymore. Tom reads this letter 7 times, then he makes a decision that will shape the rest of his life. January 15, 1950. Tom walks into a Canadian Army recruiting office in Calgary. He is 27 years old. Dual citizenship, American father and Canadian mother, makes enlistment legal. The recruiting sergeant asks the standard question. Why do you want to serve? Tom could say patriotism. He could mention the communist threat in Korea. He could talk about duty or honor or family tradition. Instead, he tells a version of the truth. My father served. I want to follow in his footsteps. The sergeant nods, satisfied. Your father would be proud. Tom does not correct him, does not explain that he is not seeking to honor his father's memory. He is seeking to understand it, to find the rifle that carried his father through Ortona, through France, through the Gothic line, through every battle until Sicily, to hold the weapon that Hayes said never failed, to understand why it brought Robert Brennan through 3 campaigns, but not through the 4th. Tom enlists. The paperwork takes 6 weeks. In March 1950, he reports to basic training at a Canadian facility in Ontario. February 1950, Ontario training camp. Weapons issue. Tom stands in a line with 40 other recruits. The quartermaster, a grizzled sergeant who has seen this ritual 1,000 times, moves down the line distributing rifles. Lee Enfield, number 4, Mark 1, the standard Canadian infantry weapon. Bolt action, 10-round magazine. A design dating back to the Boer War, refined over 50 years of constant warfare. The quartermaster reaches Tom, hands him a rifle. Lee Enfield, number 4, Mark 1. She's older than you, son, but she'll bring you home if you treat her right. Tom accepts the weapon. It is heavy, familiar in a way he cannot quite explain. Muscle memory inherited from blood, perhaps, or simply the universal weight of well-made steel and walnut. He brings the rifle to inspection position, checking the bore, the action, the condition of the stock. Then, out of habit more than intention, he turns the rifle to check the serial number stamped into the receiver. 47C8492. Tom stops breathing. The quartermaster is already moving to the next recruit. The world continues around him, but Tom stands frozen, staring at 7 characters that connect past to present, like a bridge across a decade of grief. His father's rifle, the weapon that killed 18 Germans while Robert bled out in Sicily. The rifle that should have saved him but didn't, in Tom's hands now, signed to him by random chance or fate, or whatever force governs the distribution of military equipment. Something wrong, recruit? Tom looks up, cannot speak. His throat is closed. A voice behind him, sharp with command authority. Brennan, Robert Brennan's son. Tom turns. A man in sergeant's stripes stands 3 feet away staring at Tom's name tag. The sergeant is perhaps 50, with gray at his temples and old scars on his hands. His eyes are the eyes of someone who has seen too much and remembers all of it. Yes, Sergeant. Tom's voice is barely a whisper. The sergeant steps closer, looks at the rifle in Tom's hands. His eyes drop to the serial number. Recognition flickers across his face like lightning. Christ, that's his rifle, your father's rifle. Tom nods, still unable to form words. The sergeant's face shifts through several expressions. Shock, memory, something that might be grief or might be guilt. I'm William Hayes. I served with your father in Italy. I wrote those letters to your mother. The world narrows to this moment. This man, this rifle. The ghost of Robert Brennan standing between them like a third soldier on parade. Hayes's voice drops lower, meant only for Tom. After evening formation, meet me behind the barracks. We need to talk. That evening, Hayes pulls Tom aside from the other recruits. They stand in the cold Ontario darkness, breath steaming, and Hayes tells Tom what the letters could not. Your father died covering my evacuation. We were pinned down by a German machine gun nest in Sicily. 17 of us wounded, couldn't move. Your father left the covered position, advanced under fire, flanked that gun emplacement. Killed 12 Germans with that rifle you are holding. Silenced the machine gun. Gave us time to get out. Hayes pauses, lights a cigarette with hands that shake slightly. He was hit by artillery during the withdrawal. Random shell. Wrong place, wrong time. He died doing what soldiers do, saving other soldiers. Tom's grip tightens on the rifle. The letters said the rifle didn't fail him. It didn't, Hayes says firmly. That weapon killed 12 more Germans after your father fell. I picked it up, used it to cover our final retreat. That rifle kept working when everything else went to hell. Your father's rifle didn't fail him, Tom. War failed him. Artillery failed him. God failed him if you believe in God. But that Lee Enfield, it did exactly what it was designed to do. Hayes takes a long drag from his cigarette. Listen to me carefully. I knew your father for 2 years. He was the best rifleman I ever saw. Could put 24 aimed rounds down range in 60 seconds. Not spray and pray. 24 men who didn't go home because your father was that good. I'm going to teach you what he knew, Hayes continues. Every technique, every trick, the way he held the rifle, the way he worked the bolt, the breathing patterns, the sight picture adjustments, everything. And then you're going to decide for yourself whether that rifle failed your father or whether your father chose to save 17 lives over his own. Tom looks down at the Lee Enfield. The wood is worn smooth by hands that include his father's. The metal shows the patina of hard use across 3 continents in a decade of war. Why are you doing this? Hayes meets his eyes. Because I owe your father my life. And because that rifle deserves a man who understands what it represents. Not just a weapon, a legacy. March through November 1950. Hayes trains Tom personally. Every morning before formation, every evening after they work on marksmanship fundamentals that most soldiers never master. The Mad Minute Drill, a relic from 1914 when British soldiers at Mons fired their Lee Enfields so rapidly that German forces thought they faced machine guns. The standard is 15 aim shots in 60 seconds. Good soldiers can manage 18. Exceptional soldiers reach 20. Robert Brennan's record was 24 rounds in 1 minute, 22 hits on man-sized targets at 400 meters. Tom's first attempt produces 12 rounds and 8 hits. Your father practiced this 2 hours daily for 8 months before Ortona. Hayes says, his voice devoid of judgment. You have 6 months before Korea. Let's see if genetics means anything. Tom practices until his shoulder is bruised from recoil, until the bolt action becomes automatic, requiring no conscious thought, until the rifle is no longer a separate object, but an extension of his body, responsive as his own hands. He learns that the Lee Enfield pulls slightly left at ranges beyond 500 meters. He learns to work the bolt with authority straight back and straight forward, no gentle hesitation. He learns that the rifle heats quickly during sustained fire, but never loses accuracy. He learns where his father's hands wore grooves in the wood, and he places his own hands in those same positions. The rifle teaches him things that Hayes cannot put into words. The weight of well-made steel, The reliability of simple mechanics perfected over decades. The difference between a weapon that works and a weapon you trust. One night alone in the barracks, Tom writes a letter to his dead father. He does not mail it. There is nowhere to send it. He folds it carefully and places it in his footlocker beneath his extra uniforms. Dad, I'm holding your rifle. Sergeant Hayes says you chose to save 17 men instead of yourself. I don't know if I'm strong enough to make that choice, but I'm going to learn. If this rifle brought you through 3 campaigns, maybe it will teach me how to bring Basho home. I'm scared I'll fail it the way I think it failed you. Love, Tom. November 3rd, 1950. Final qualification before deployment to Korea. Tom stands on the firing line with 30 other soldiers. The drill is simple. 60 seconds. Man-sized targets at 400 meters. Fire as many aimed shots as possible. The whistle blows. Tom's world narrows to breath and trigger and bolt and sight picture. Fire. The rifle bucks. Work the bolt smooth and fast, 1 second total. Acquire target. Fire again. The rhythm is hypnotic, automatic, exactly as Hayes taught him. His shoulder absorbs recoil through technique his father perfected. His breathing controls the rifle's movement. His fingers work the bolt without conscious direction. 60 seconds later, the whistle blows again. 23 rounds fired. 21 hits. Hayes watches through binoculars from the observation post. He says nothing. His face reveals nothing. After formation, he pulls Tom aside away from the other soldiers. Your father would be proud. You're almost as good as he was. Hayes pauses and his voice gains an edge. But almost gets men killed in Korea. You have 1 week before deployment. 24 rounds, 22 hits at minimum, or you're not carrying that rifle into combat. November 10th, 1950. Tom's final mad minute before deployment. 24 rounds fired in 60 seconds. 23 hits at 400 meters. Hayes nods once. Just once. Now you're your father's son. That rifle is yours. Bring it home. And bring yourself home with it. Tom breaks down crying for the first time since he was 20 years old. Hayes lets him, understanding that some things cannot be held inside forever. If you or someone you know served in Korea, if you carried a Lee Enfield into combat, if you understand what it means to inherit a weapon that carried your father through war, leave a comment below. This story belongs to all of you. Because before we talk about the 793 men Tom Brennan killed, we need to understand the one man he could not save. His father, January 15th, 1951. Baker Company, 2nd Battalion Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry arrives in Korea. The cold is different here. Not the clean cold of Ontario training or Montana winters. This is a cold that seeps into bones and stays there. A cold that makes rifle bolts stiff and fingers numb, and every breath a visible reminder that you are still alive. Tom steps off the transport ship, carrying his father's rifle and 60 pounds of equipment. He is 28 years old. He has never killed anyone. In 40 days, he will kill 89 men in a single morning. But first he meets Private Danny Cooper. Danny is 18 years old. Farm boy from Saskatchewan. Blonde hair, thin frame, hands that shake when he thinks no one is watching. During the first night in camp, Danny approaches Tom's bunk after lights out. Brennan, Danny's voice is a whisper. Can I talk to you? Tom sits up. What is it? Danny sits on the edge of the bunk, nervous energy radiating from him. I lied about my age. I'm 17. If they find out, they'll send me home. But my dad died in France in 1944, and he always thought I was a coward and I need to prove I'm not. Tom sees himself in Danny, the version of himself that existed before the telegram arrived, before loss carved away innocence. He makes a silent promise that he will not articulate for 38 years. I will get this kid home. Your secret's safe, Tom says. But you need to focus on training. Being brave doesn't mean being stupid. Danny nods grateful and returns to his bunk. Tom lies awake staring at the ceiling, his father's rifle propped against the wall within arm's reach. He does not know yet that this promise to Danny will force him to choose between duty and humanity, between mission and morality, between being a perfect soldier and being a decent man. He does not know that keeping Danny alive will cost him everything. January 28, 1951. Patrol action 15 kilometers south of Hill 166. Tom experiences combat for the first time. Three Chinese scouts appear at 450 meters, moving through sparse tree cover. The patrol leader gives the order to engage. Tom's Lee Enfield cracks 3 times in 4 seconds. 3 men fall. The patrol continues. Mission accomplished. No Canadian casualties. Tom vomits behind a rock 30 seconds later. Hayes finds him there wiping his mouth with the back of his hand. Doesn't get easier. Hayes says, his voice neither sympathetic nor harsh. But it gets necessary. Those 3 scouts would have reported our position. Your shots just saved 40 Canadian lives. Remember that when you can't sleep tonight. Tom does not sleep that night, or the next. He starts a notebook recording every engagement with the precision of an accountant. Date, location, rounds fired, confirmed kills. January 28, 1951. 3 kills. I owe them names. I cannot give them names. So I will count them. Every single one. Danny fires 6 rounds in the same engagement and my moment. Misses all 6. Freezes afterwards, shaking so badly he cannot reload. Tom becomes Danny's unofficial mentor. Your father wasn't a coward, and neither are you. You're learning. Let me teach you what my father's sergeant taught me. They practiced together, Tom teaching Danny the techniques Hayes taught him, the breathing, the sight picture, the smooth bolt work that turns a rifle into an instrument of precision rather than a club for throwing bullets downrange. Danny improves slowly. Fear does not disappear, but it becomes manageable. Controlled. February 10, 1951. 30 kilometers north of Canadian positions. Colonel Chen Wei of the Chinese 117th Division reviews intelligence reports on enemy formations. His forces number 12,000 troops. The Canadians holding Hill 166 number 180 men. The mathematics are simple. Overwhelming advantage. 66 Chinese soldiers for every Canadian defender. Intelligence confirms that Canadian forces carry bolt-action rifles. Lee Enfield, number 4. British design from 1941. Obsolete compared to modern Soviet weapons. The Chinese carry SKS semi-automatic rifles and PPSH submachine guns. Superior rate of fire. Superior firepower. Chen's deputy asks the obvious question. Should be a simple assault, Colonel. Chen studies the maps. Nothing is simple in war. But mathematics do not lie. We attack February 16th at dawn. Overwhelming force. They will surrender or die. February 14th, 1951. Canadian forces capture a wounded Chinese soldier during a probing attack. Under interrogation, the soldier reveals details of the planned assault. 2 divisions, 12,000 troops. Objective Hill, 166. Timeline February 16th, dawn assault. The intelligence report reaches Baker Company on the evening of February 15th. Sergeant Hayes briefs the men. His voice is calm, matter of fact, the voice of someone who has delivered such briefings before. Chinese are coming tomorrow at dawn. They outnumber us 66 to 1. They have semi-automatic rifles. We have bolt actions from 1941. He pauses, lets this information settle. But here is what they do not have. Training. Your fathers fought with these rifles at Vimy Ridge, at the Somme, at Ortona. Lee Enfields brought them through. These rifles will bring you through. Get some sleep. Tomorrow we teach the Chinese what obsolete really means. Tom lies in his bunker that night, cleaning his father's rifle with the obsessive care of ritual. Danny lies in the next bunk, unable to leap, staring at the ceiling. Tom, Danny's voice breaks the darkness. I'm scared. What if I freeze tomorrow? What if I let everyone down? Tom continues cleaning the rifle, running the cloth along the barrel, feeling the familiar weight in his hands. Then I will cover you. That is what my father did for 17 men in Sicily. That is what I will do for you. We are getting home, Danny, I promise. Tom does not know yet that keeping this promise will cost him his position. Will expose the flank, will allow Chinese forces to close to within 300 meters, will force him to make an impossible choice. He does not know that this moment, this promise to a terrified 17-year-old farm boy will define the rest of his life. But the rifle knows. The rifle that carried his father through 3 campaigns. The rifle that never fails. The rifle that will fire 180 rounds tomorrow without a single malfunction. The rifle knows that reliability and humanity are not the same thing, and that sometimes the cost of being human is failing at being a perfect soldier. February 16th, 1951, 05:15 hours, 25 minutes before the assault begins. Tom Brennan checks the family photograph tucked inside his breast pocket. Wife Ellen married June 1949, just months before the Korea deployment orders arrived. Daughter Sarah, 15 months old, born in December 1949. Sarah's face is round and smiling, captured in a moment of pure joy that seems to belong to a different universe than this frozen hilltop in Korea. Ellen's last letter arrived 4 days ago. Tom has read it 17 times. Sarah said, "Dada today. Come home soon so she remembers your face." Tom pulls out a sheet of paper and begins writing a response he will never mail. The words come slowly, carefully weighted with premonition. "Ellen, if I do not make it, tell Sarah her daddy was thinking of her when. Tell her the rifle is not more important than her. I just did not know how to be a father without being a soldier first. I am sorry." He folds the letter, places it carefully in his footlocker. Then he picks up his father's rifle and moves to his firing position. The Lee Enfield feels different this morning, heavier perhaps. Or maybe Tom simply understands now what his father understood in Sicily, that this weapon will work perfectly, will never fail, and that this reliability makes it neither savior nor executioner. Just a tool. The man behind it makes all the difference. 0540 hours. Tom watches the valley through the pre-dawn darkness. Movement, 800 meters distant, at the tree line where shadow meets shadow. The first Chinese soldiers emerged like ghosts materializing from mist. Then more, then hundreds, then thousands. Tom counts through the scope, his breath steady despite what he is seeing. 200, 400, 600, 800. He stops counting at 2,000 because the formation extends beyond his field of vision. Each wave contains approximately 200 men spread across a 400-meter front. At least 10 waves visible in the growing light. The mathematics are brutal and simple. 20 Chinese soldiers for every Canadian rifleman on this section of ridge. Sergeant Hayes moves along the line, his voice carrying the calm of experience. Remember your training. Aim for center mass. Controlled breathing. Let them come to 600 meters. Make every round count. 16 Canadian riflemen armed with Lee Enfield bolt-action rifles check their weapons one final time. They have trained for this moment. Practice the rapid-fire techniques passed down from fathers and grandfathers who fought in the Great War. The Mad Minute drill, a relic of 1914, suddenly becomes devastatingly relevant in 1951. Tom's hands are steady on the walnut stock. The rifle's metal is cold but familiar. He has fired this weapon 10,000 times in training, has cleaned it every night for 11 months, knows its weight, its balance, the slight leftward pull at ranges beyond 500 meters. Danny Cooper crouches in the position next to Tom, his breathing too fast, too shallow. Panic breathing, the kind that makes hands shake and shots go wild. "Danny," Tom says quietly, not taking his eyes from the valley. "Follow my rhythm. Breathe when I breathe. Shoot when I shoot, just like training." Danny nods, unable to speak. The Chinese continue advancing. Disciplined formation. Weapons at ready. They move with the confidence of overwhelming numerical superiority. Tom estimates the approaching force at over 2,000 troops in the visible formations alone, perhaps more in reserve. The numerical advantage is approximately 20-1. By any reasonable military calculation, the Canadian position should be overrun within 30 minutes. But Colonel Chen Wei, watching from his command post 3 kilometers away, has made a critical miscalculation. He has measured firepower by comparing weapon types rather than the men wielding them. He has assumed that bolt-action rifles from 1941 cannot match modern Soviet semi-automatic weapons. He does not yet understand that rate of fire means nothing if the rounds fired miss their targets. He is about to receive an education in the difference between spraying bullets and placing them. 0557 hours. Chinese forces reach 620 meters, still advancing in disciplined waves. Hayes' voice cuts through the cold morning air. 600 meters. Fire. 16 Lee Enfield rifles crack almost simultaneously. The distinctive sharp report of the .303 British cartridge echoes across the valley like a string of firecrackers. Tom acquires his first target, a Chinese soldier carrying what appears to be a PSH-41 submachine gun. Tom leads the target, slightly accounting for forward movement, in the crosswind that whispers across the ridgeline. He squeezes the trigger. The rifle bucks against his shoulder. Familiar recoil absorbed through technique perfected across countless hours of practice. The soldier falls. Tom works the bolt. The action is smooth, fast, automatic. Straight back with authority. The spent cartridge ejects in a high arc, glinting bronze in the early light. Fresh, round chambers. Bolt forward. Less than 1 second total. Tom's rifle is already back on target. He fires again, and again, and again. Within the first minute, Tom fires 18 rounds, each aimed, each deliberate, each accompanied by the mathematical certainty of trajectory and wind drift and target lead. He counts 14 confirmed hits, sees 14 men fall across the Chinese front. The first wave staggers. Bodies mark the snow across the entire 400-meter assault frontage. The Canadians maintain steady, rapid fire. The sound is like sustained machine gun fire, impossible to distinguish as individual bolt-action rifles. The Chinese formation, still 600 meters away, cannot effectively return fire. The SKS rifles and PPSH-41 submachine guns carried by most Chinese infantry are optimized for ranges under 400 meters. At 600 meters, they are nearly useless. Bullets fired from that distance lose velocity, drop significantly, become little more than harassing fire. But the Lee Enfield, designed for long-range precision, remains devastatingly effective. 600 meters is well within its effective range. In trained hands, it can kill accurately out to 800 meters. The Chinese continue advancing through the casualties of the first wave, stepping over bodies, maintaining momentum. Doctrine demands forward movement regardless of losses. They reach 500 meters. Tom changes magazines. The 10-round box magazine slips smoothly into place. His hands move with practiced efficiency. 5 seconds total. He is back in action, acquiring targets, firing. The second wave advances through the positions of the first. Individual faces are visible now at 500 meters. Tom can see determination and fear in equal measure. Can see youth in faces that could belong to his neighbor's sons back in Montana. He fires anyway, because stopping means Danny dies. Hayes dies. The entire section dies. Fire. Bolt. Fire. Bolt. The rhythm becomes mechanical, hypnotic. His shoulder absorbs recoil. His hands work the bolt. His eyes acquire targets. The rifle does what it was designed to do. By the time the Chinese reach 400 meters, Tom's internal count stands at 47 confirmed kills in 12 minutes. 3 kilometers away, Colonel Chenwei watches the assault through binoculars. "What is that sound?" he asks his deputy. "It sounds like machine gun fire. Multiple machine guns." But intelligence confirms the Canadians have only bolt-action rifles in this sector. His deputy, also listening to the sustained cracking of rifle fire, shakes his head. "Canadians are achieving impossible rates of fire, Colonel. Our men cannot close the distance." Chen lowers the binoculars. His face shows confusion, then calculation. "Impossible. Bolt-action rifles cannot match semi-automatic fire rates. Our weapons are superior. Our numbers are overwhelming. The assault must push through." He turns to his communications officer. "Order all waves to advance. Maintain pressure. Overwhelming force will prevail." The orders are transmitted. Chinese soldiers that continue advancing into the wall of precisely aimed fire. The Chinese reach 400 meters. Now they are finally within effective range of their SKS rifles and PPSH submachine guns. They begin returning fire, still advancing, maintaining formation discipline, despite casualties that are mounting by the minute. Tom hears rounds snap overhead, hears the whine of bullets ricocheting off rocks, feels the impact of rounds kicking up frozen dirt from the embankment, protecting his position. He does not flinch, does not break rhythm. Fire, bolt, fire, bolt. The rifle is heating now despite the frigid air, the barrel warming from sustained fire, but the weapon continues to function flawlessly. No jams, no misfires, just reliable mechanical perfection. Tom's section maintains the devastating rhythm. 16 riflemen, each firing 20 to 25 aimed rounds per minute. The mathematics of death working in Canadian favor despite numerical disadvantage. 16 riflemen times 22 rounds per minute equals 352 rounds per minute of sustained aimed fire, more than many light machine guns, and every round placed with precision that automatic fire cannot match. Danny fires beside Tom, his rhythm shaky but improving. He has found a cadence that works. Breathing synchronized with bolt work. Sight picture acquired before each shot. He is hitting targets now, contributing to the wall of fire that no assault can penetrate. Good, Tom says between shots, his voice calm despite the chaos. Keep that up. You are doing great. Then the ricochet happens. 0618 hours, 21 minutes into the battle. A Chinese round impacts a rock 3 feet from Danny's position. The bullet fragments. Shrapnel spreads in a cone of metal shards traveling at supersonic velocity. One fragment no larger than a fingernail hits Danny's right shoulder. Danny screams. The sound cuts through the sustained rifle fire like a knife through fabric. He drops his rifle, collapses backward. Tom turns, sees blood spreading through Danny's jacket, sees the boy's face go white with shock and pain. Hayes, 20 meters down the line, engaging targets, shouts over the gunfire. Brennan, maintain your position. Keep firing. Tom faces the choice that will define the rest of his life. Mission or humanity, duty or compassion, perfect soldier or decent man. The tactical calculation is simple. Tom's firing position covers critical approach angle on the left flank. If he abandons his position, Chinese forces will exploit the gap, will advance closer, will potentially break through Canadian lines. 17 lives depend on Tom maintaining fire discipline. But Danny is bleeding, crying, calling for his mother in a voice that sounds exactly like what he is. A 17-year-old boy who lied about his age because he wanted to prove he was not a coward. Tom makes his choice. He drops the rifle in position, still loaded, still ready to fire. Crawls toward Danny under enemy fire. Rounds snap overhead, impact around him. He moves fast low using every bit of cover the terrain provides. He reaches Danny. The boy's shoulder is bleeding heavily. Not arterial, not immediately fatal, but bad enough. Chinese forces observing the gap in Canadian fire immediately begin concentrating forces toward the weakened left flank. They advance from 400 meters to 350 meters in less than 90 seconds. Hayes, wounded in the leg from earlier fire, cannot move to fill the gap. He shouts again, desperation entering his voice for the first time. Brennan, get back on that rifle now. Tom ties a tourniquet on Danny's shoulder one-handed. His hands move with efficiency born of training. Stop the bleeding, stabilize the casualty, complete the mission. But Danny is crying, calling for his mother, and Tom sees his own younger self in this boy. The version that existed before loss taught him that fathers do not always come home. Tom's rifle sits 15 feet away, still in firing position. Unmanned, Chinese forces are now at 300 meters on the left flank, closing fast, exploiting the gap that Tom created by choosing to save one life over maintaining fire discipline. The section's left flank is collapsing. Tom finishes the tourniquet, looks Danny in the eyes. You are going to live, but I have to get back on that rifle or we all die. Stay down. He leopard crawls back toward his position. Rounds impact around him. Frozen dirt explodes. Rock chips scatter. One round passes close enough that Tom feels the pressure wave against his cheek. He reaches his rifle, chambers around, resumes firing. But the Chinese have closed to 250 meters on the left flank. This is close quarters combat now. Every round must count. There is no margin for error. Tom shifts his fire to the left, engaging the closer targets that threaten to overrun the position. He sees a Chinese officer distinguished by his uniform and the way other soldiers orient toward him, organizing a concentrated push. The officer is 320 meters distant, moving perpendicular to Tom's position. Leading men toward the gap Tom created. Tom adjusts his aim, calculates lead for a moving target at 320 meters with 5 km/h crosswind. Squeezes the trigger. The officer falls. The concentrated push immediately loses coordination. Chinese soldiers without leadership hesitate. The flanking attempt collapses. But something inside Tom breaks in this moment. He just killed someone's son, someone's father, someone who had a name and a family, and dreams that ended with a .303 caliber bullet through the chest. Tom's hands shake for the first time in 10 months. He vomits between his shots, bile burning his throat. But he keeps firing because stopping means death for everyone. The count changes in his mind. No longer targets, no longer enemy combatants. People, humans, lives. 48, 49, 50. Each number representing a human being erased from existence. But the rifle keeps working. Bolt cycles smoothly. Chamber feeds rounds reliably. Firing pinstrikes primers with perfect consistency. The weapon does not care about Tom's crisis of conscience. It simply functions. Fire. Bolt. Fire. Bolt. 0625 hours. 28 minutes into the battle. The Chinese third wave reaches 300 meters. The ground between 300 and 600 meters is now covered with casualties. Bodies lie in the snow, some moving, most not. The conservative estimate of Chinese dead at this point exceeds 400. Tom's ammunition status is critical. 9 magazines expended, 90 rounds fired, 8 magazines remaining. 80 rounds left. His internal count stands at 67 confirmed kills. But he no longer thinks of them as kills. He thinks of them as men. 67 men who will not go home. 67 families destroyed. 67 futures ended by his hands and this rifle that never fails. He continues firing. Because Danny needs time to be evacuated. Because Hayes is wounded. Because 16 other Canadians depend on this position holding. But Tom is killing himself with every shot. Each trigger pull erasing a little more of who he was before this morning. Then a Chinese soldier breaks through on the left flank. The soldier moves fast using terrain exploiting gaps in Canadian fire. He reaches the defensive perimeter, 10 feet from Tom's position. Tom is reloading. Magazine out. Rifle empty. Fresh magazine in hand but not yet seated. The Chinese soldier sees wounded Hayes 20 feet away. Hayes cannot defend himself. His leg wound prevents movement. The soldier charges toward Hayes with bayonet fixed. Tom has no weapon. Danny's rifle lies nearby, but Tom does not know its quirks, its zero, its trigger, pull weight. Unfamiliar weapon under stress equals missed shots. The soldier reaches Tom's position, grabs Tom's Lee Enfield, while Tom is still fumbling with the fresh magazine. Serial number 47, C8492, Tom's father's rifle, the weapon that never failed, in enemy hands now. The soldier swings the rifle towards Sergeant Hayes. Tom has perhaps 2 seconds before Hayes dies killed by the rifle that saved Robert Brennan's platoon in Sicily. Tom drops the magazine, tackles the soldier, bare hands. They go down together in a tangle of limbs and desperation. The soldier is younger, maybe 19, stronger than Tom expected, well-trained in hand-to-hand combat. They wrestle for the rifle. Tom's hands on the barrel, the soldier's hands on the stock. Both pulling, both knowing that whoever controls this weapon lives. The soldier gets leverage, swings the rifle butt toward Tom's face. Tom twists. The stock misses his head by inches, connects with his shoulder instead. Pain explodes, but he does not let go. They roll. Tom on top, then the soldier. Frozen ground bruising ribs, scraping skin. Tom sees the serial number in slow motion. 47C8492. His father's rifle about to become the weapon that kills him. The soldier is getting the rifle positioned, muzzle swinging toward Tom, finger finding the trigger. Tom wrenches the rifle away with strength born of absolute necessity. No time to chamber around. No time to use it as it was designed. Tom raises the rifle overhead, brings the buttstock down. The stock connects with the soldier's head. A terrible sound, like a melon cracking. The wood splits but holds. The soldier falls. Stunned but not dead. Not yet. Tom has maybe 3 seconds before the soldier recovers. 3 seconds before the soldier alerts other Chinese forces. 3 seconds before the position is overrun and everyone dies. Tom must make a choice. Kill or be killed. Kill or Hayes dies. Kill or Danny's rescue was for nothing. Tom raises the rifle again. The soldier looks up. Young face. Maybe 19. Fear in his eyes that mirrors the fear Tom felt at 18. The soldier whispers something in Mandarin. Tom does not understand the words, but he understands the tone. Something like a plea, something like goodbye. Tom brings the rifle down anyway. Has to. No choice. The stock connects again and again. The soldier stops moving. Tom retrieves his rifle from his own shaking hands. Blood on the cracked stock. Not his blood. He chambers around, resumes firing position. But he is different now, broken in a way that will never fully heal. The rhythm continues. Fire, bolt, fire, bolt. But Tom is not thinking anymore, just operating. Machine mimicking human, soldier performing function. He counts. 68, 69, 70. Each kill now has a face attached. Young face, pleading face. The face of the soldier he beat to death with his father's rifle. 0630 through 0643 hours. The final 13 minutes. Tom fires his remaining 90 rounds. All aimed, all hitting targets. Shoulder bruised from recoil. Hands numb from cold and adrenaline. Powder residue stinging his eyes. None of it matters. The rifle keeps working. Tom keeps working. At 0643 hours, 46 minutes after the assault began, Chinese forces withdraw. The valley floor is covered with casualties. Intelligence estimate will later confirm over 800 dead, hundreds more wounded. Canadian fire slackens, allowing humanitarian retrieval of wounded. Tom sets the rifle down carefully, treating it with the respect it has earned despite what he has done with it. The barrel is hot enough to steam in the -8-degree air. Metal warm enough to melt snow if touched to ground. Tom counts his empty magazines. 18. 180 rounds fired. Hayes, being treated for his leg wound by a medic, calls out, "Brennan, report. How many?" Tom's voice is dead empty of inflection. "Counted 89 confirmed hits, Sergeant. Could not track all shots, maybe 110 total, maybe more." Hayes nods slowly. "Outstanding shooting. Your father would be proud." Tom does not respond for a long moment. When he speaks, his voice carries a weight that Hayes will recognize but cannot fully understand. "My father killed 18 men the day he died in Sicily. I killed 89 in 46 minutes. We are not the same." Hayes' understanding something fundamental has shifted softens his voice. "Your father saved 17 lives that day, including mine. You just saved 17 lives today. You are the same." "I had to kill a man with this rifle," Tom says, looking at the blood on the stock. "Not shoot, kill, beat him to death, hand to hand. He said something. I killed him anyway." Look, Hayes goes quiet, then asks the only question that matters. "Did you have a choice?" "No." "Then you did what soldiers do. You survived. Your father would understand." Tom picks up his notebook, adds a new entry with hands that shake from more than cold. February 16th, 1951. Hill 166. Lee Enfield, number 47C, 8492. 180 rounds fired, 0 malfunctions. Estimated 127 kills total. 1 hand-to-hand fatality with rifle as weapon. Rifle performed perfectly. I killed 127 people to save 17. The rifle never failed. I do not know if I did. He closes the notebook. Danny has been evacuated to field hospital. Hayes is wounded but will survive. The section held. 16 Canadian riflemen repelled an estimated 2,000 Chinese assault force. By every military measure, this is victory. But Tom Brennan, age 28, understands that some victories cost everything. The rifle sits beside him, barrel cooling. Action still smooth, ready to fire again if needed. It has never failed. Not in Sicily when his father used it. Not today when Tom used it. Not across 18 months and thousands of rounds. The rifle is perfectly reliable. Tom is perfectly broken. And he still has 2 more years of war ahead of him. 3 days after Hill 166, a captured Canadian rifle arrives at Colonel Chenwei's headquarters near the town of Hongchuan. The weapon is a Lee Enfield No. 4 Mark I, serial number 42-B-1127. Not Tom Brennan's rifle, but the same model, same design, same bolt-action mechanism that Chen's intelligence staff assured him was obsolete. Chen examines the rifle with the careful attention of someone who has just lost 823 men and needs to understand why. The bolt action is remarkably smooth, cycles with less effort than Chinese or Soviet bolt action designs. The magazine holds 10 rounds, twice the capacity of most contemporary bolt-action rifles. The sights are clear, well-designed, optimized for rapid target acquisition. But none of this explains the performance Chen's forces encountered. None of this explains how 16 obsolete rifles created firepower that sounded like sustained machine gun fire. Chen orders his best rifleman, Private Zhou Lin, to test the weapon. February 20th, 1951, 08:30 hours. Zhou Lin, veteran marksman who fought the Japanese in 1945 and the nationalists in the Chinese Civil War, fires the Lee Enfield on a makeshift range. Zhou has experience with various bolt-action designs. Japanese Arisakas, older Chinese Hanyang rifles, even captured German Mausers. He understands rifles the way master craftsmen understand their tools. Within 30 minutes, Zhou understands what killed 823 Chinese soldiers. The Lee Enfield's bolt design allows for extraordinarily rapid operation. The bolt handle is positioned at the rear of the receiver, allowing the rifleman to work it without breaking cheek weld or losing sight picture. The action is smooth enough that with practice, the motion becomes automatic, requiring no conscious thought. The rear position bolt also means the rifleman's hand never leaves the firing grip. The motion is compact, efficient, fast. Zhou achieves 22 aim shots in 1 minute, a rate of fire he never thought possible with a bolt-action weapon. He reports to Colonel Chen with professional precision. "This rifle is very old in design, Colonel. The basic mechanism dates to 1895, but the design is excellent. In trained hands, it performs nearly as well as semi-automatic rifles, and with much better accuracy at long range." Chen writes his after-action report that evening. The report is honest, detailed, the kind of analysis that separates professional soldiers from ideologues. Canadian marksmanship training combined with superior rifle design creates firepower that negates our numerical advantage. Recommend avoiding engagement with Canadian forces at ranges exceeding 300 meters. Their bolt-action rifles, though technologically inferior by classification, outperform our modern weapons when wielded by trained riflemen. This is not a question of equipment quality, but of training quality and tactical doctrine. In his personal journal, Chen writes something different, something that will never appear in official reports. "I ordered 2,000 men to charge rifles I thought were obsolete. 823 are dead because I underestimated the men behind those rifles. Modern weapons mean nothing without men trained to use them. The Canadians have perfected techniques with old rifles that our new rifles cannot match. This is not equipment failure. This is my failure." Chen will never meet Tom Brennan. Will never know the name of the rifleman who killed 89 Chinese soldiers in 46 minutes. But 20 years later, in 1971, Chen will write a letter to the Canadian War Museum after reading about Hill 166 in a military history journal. The letter will arrive at the museum in 1972. Dr. Margaret Sullivan will file it carefully, waiting for the right moment to share it. That moment will come in 1989. But first, Tom Brennan must finish his war. March through July 1951. Tom's rifle continues its perfect performance through conditions that would break lesser weapons. March 2nd, 1951. Patrol action near the Imjin River. Tom's squad crosses a river during tactical movement. Tom slips on ice-covered rocks, falls into water that is barely above freezing. The rifle is fully submerged for approximately 15 seconds. Tom drags himself out, shivering, hypothermia a real threat. But his first action is not to warm himself. He field strip the Lee Enfield, dries each component with the cloth, oils the action, lightly reassembles. 90 minutes later, the rifle functions normally. No rust, no fouling, no impact on accuracy. March 17th, 1951. Night defensive engagement near Kapyong. Chinese forces probe Canadian positions over 6 hours of sporadic contact. Tom fires 140 rounds during the engagement. The rifle never jams, never misfires, simply works in darkness and chaos. April 23rd, 1951. The Battle of Kapyong. 18 hours of continuous fighting. Chinese forces attacking in waves. Canadian forces defending critical positions that cannot be surrendered. Tom fires 227 rounds over those 18 hours. 123 confirmed hits. His Lee Enfield never fails him. The running count in Tom's notebook reaches 340 confirmed kills by mid-1951. But the entries grow shorter, less detailed. The observations about rifle performance disappear. The tactical notes vanish, just numbers now. March 2nd, 11 kills. April 23rd, 123 kills. May 15th, 18 kills. The kills are recorded with the emotional flatness of accounting entries, debits in a ledger that will never balance. Tom begins writing letters he will never send, letters to the families of men he has killed. To the family of the Chinese officer I killed February 16th at 0621 hours. Your son or husband or father was brave. He died organizing his men, doing his duty. I am sorry I was the one who ended his life. He did not suffer. It was quick. I think about him every morning. I am sorry. By June 1951, Tom has written 47 such letters. They accumulate in his footlocker, next to the letter he wrote to Ellen before Hill 166, next to the letter he wrote to his dead father in 1950. A collection of apologies that will never be delivered to people who will never read them. Danny Cooper writes monthly from the hospital in Japan, then from stateside facilities. March 1951. Tom, they are sending me home. Lost full use of left arm, but I am alive. You saved me. Thank you. April 1951. I am stateside now. My mom wants to meet you. Thank you for saving my life. Can I give her your address? May 1951. Tom, are you okay? Have not heard back. Just want you to know I am doing fine. Because of you, Beckham. Tom cannot respond. The letters sit unopened for weeks before he finally reads them. He feels he caused Danny's wound by hesitating, by choosing humanity over duty. If Tom had maintained his firing position, the flank would not have been exposed. The Chinese would not have advanced close enough for the ricochet. Danny's wound is Tom's fault for choosing wrong. He cannot face gratitude when he feels only guilt. July 27, 1953. The armistice is signed at Panmunjom. Tom's final combat statistics are recorded in his notebook with the precision of someone who needs to remember every single one. Total rounds fired 4,347. Confirmed enemy kills 793. This is a conservative calculation based only on kills Tom directly observed. Probable total kills 880 to 920. Rifle malfunctions across 2.5 years of combat zero. Times the rifle's reliability prevented Tom's death, 47 documented incidents. The Lee Enfield has performed flawlessly. Exactly as designed. Exactly as his father's rifle should. Tom returns to Montana in September 1953. Wife Ellen and daughter Sarah, now 3 years old, meet him at the train station in Shelby. Ellen has been waiting for 4 years. Sarah has no memory of her father beyond photographs. Sarah sees a thin, haunted man step off the train. She hides behind her mother's skirt, afraid. Tom tries to smile, cannot quite manage it. Ellen whispers, her voice careful. Tom, are you okay? Tom looks at his hands. They are clean now, scrubbed, no powder residue, no blood, but he still sees both. I am home, but I am not okay. I do not know if I will ever be okay. Tom brings the rifle home. Legally deactivated according to military regulations, firing pin removed, but still his. Still his father's. Still the weapon that never failed across 54 years of war. He hangs it above the fireplace in their small house outside Shelby. Daily reminder. Daily penance. That first night home, Sarah points at the rifle. Daddy's gun. Ellen answers, her voice gentle. Yes, sweetheart. Daddy's gun from the war. Sarah asks the question with a child's innocent curiosity. Did it keep Daddy safe? Tom, barely holding himself together, manages 3 words. Yes, it did. What he does not say, what he cannot say to a 3-year-old daughter, is that the rifle kept him safe from everyone except himself. The years that follow are a slow collapse, 1953 through 1955. Tom cannot hold jobs. The nightmares come every night, 793 faces asking why. The Chinese soldier he beat to death appears most frequently, whispering words Tom could not understand then and will not learn the meaning of for 52 more years, 1956. Sarah, now 6, asks her mother a question that cuts like broken glass. Why does Daddy cry at breakfast? Ellen does not have an answer that a 6-year-old can understand. Daddy saw hard things in the war, honey. Sarah persists with the logic of childhood. Is he sad because of his gun? Ellen does not answer. does not know how. 1958, Sarah is 8. She asks Tom directly, "Daddy, how many bad guys did your gun kill?" Tom, sitting in his chair beneath the rifle that hangs above the fireplace, breaks inside. "Too many, sweetheart. Way too many." Sarah tries to understand. "But you are a hero, right? Mommy says heroes save people." Tom looks at his daughter and tells her a truth she is too young to comprehend. "I saved 17 people, Sarah, but I killed 793 to do it. I do not know if that makes me a hero or a monster." Sarah never asks about the war again. The distance between father and daughter grows wider each year, measured in questions unasked and truths too heavy to share. 1960, Tom drinks coffee, not alcohol. Presbyterians do not drink alcohol. But coffee, 20 cups daily, cannot sleep without exhaustion so complete that even nightmares cannot penetrate. 1961, Ellen begins sleeping in the guest room. Cannot handle Tom's nightmares anymore. Cannot handle him screaming words he does not understand. Words in a language he does not speak. Words that will haunt him until he finally learns their meaning. 1962. Ellen has reached her limit. 16 years of trying to save a man who does not believe he deserves saving. She delivers an ultimatum in the kitchen of their Montana home with the rifle hanging on the wall like a third presence in the marriage. "Tom, I have tried. God knows I have tried, but I cannot watch you kill yourself anymore. It is me and Sarah, or it is that rifle and your guilt. Choose." Tom understands what she is asking. Understands that it is reasonable, necessary, the only sane response to living with someone who died in Korea and just forgot to stop breathing. It is not the rifle, he says. It is what it represents. "It represents death," Ellen says, her voice breaking. "Your family represents life. Choose life, Tom. Please." Tom cannot answer, cannot choose, is paralyzed between a past he cannot change and a future he does not believe he deserves. Ellen makes the choice for him. "I will be at my sister's in Billings. Sarah is coming with me. When you are ready to choose us over 793 dead men, call me." Tom does not call. The divorce is finalized in 1966. 1966 through 1989. 23 years alone. Tom in the Montana ranch house with the rifle above the fireplace as his only companion. Sarah visits occasionally. Duty, not love. The relationship between father and daughter is cordial, distant, marked by everything they do not say. 1970. Sarah, now 21, brings her fiancé to meet Tom. "Dad, this is Michael. We are getting married." Tom manages the appropriate response. "Congratulations." Michael, young and eager and trying to connect, asks the question that well-meaning people always ask. "Mr. Brennan, Sarah says you are a war hero. Korea." Tom's response is automatic. "I was in Korea. Hero is generous." Sarah, embarrassed by her father's refusal to embrace the narrative she needs him to embrace, tries to help. "Dad fought at Hill 166, the battle where they held off thousands of Chinese with just bolt-action rifles." Tom cuts her off. "Sarah, do not." Michael does not need to hear about that. After they leave, Tom adds an entry to the journal he has kept for 20 years. "Sarah is ashamed of me. I'm ashamed of me. At least we agree on something." 1975. Sarah has 2 children, Tom's grandchildren. She does not bring them to visit. Tom sends birthday cards, always signed the same way. "Love, Grandpa Tom," and the rifle. Sarah stops cashing the checks Tom sends, returns them with a note that destroys whatever small hope Tom still carried. "I will not let my children think war trophies matter more than family." Tom understands, agrees even. The rifle does not matter more than family. But the rifle is the only thing that never failed him, and he does not know how to explain the difference between reliability and love. Danny Cooper writes every year on February 16th, the anniversary of Hill 166, the day Tom chose to save Danny's life and compromise the mission. Tom never responds to any of the letters. 1989. Danny's 38th anniversary letter arrives. Tom is now 66, the same age his father would have been in 1966 if Robert Brennan had survived Sicily. "Tom, I am 56 now, lost my arm, gained a wife, 3 kids, 7 grandkids. I teach high school history. I tell my students about Hill 166 every year. about the man who saved my life by choosing humanity over duty. That man is you, Tom. I do not know why you will not write back, but I need you to know you did not fail me. You saved me, and every good thing in my life since that day exists because you made an impossible choice. Your friend always, Danny Cooper. Tom reads the letter 17 times, cries each time, still cannot respond because Danny thinks Tom is a hero. But heroes do not beat men to death with rifle butts. Heroes do not kill 793 people. Danny does not know what Tom did, what Tom became, and Tom cannot bear to destroy Danny's illusion. June 1989. The letter from Montana Military Heritage Museum arrives. Mr. Brennan, we are assembling a Korean War exhibit. Your Lee Enfield, serial number 47, C8492, has the most extensive documented combat history we have found. Would you consider donation? We would honor both the rifle service and yours. Dr. Margaret Sullivan, curator. Tom considers the request for 3 months. The rifle has hung above his fireplace for 36 years. Constant reminder, constant companion. The thing that never failed when everything else, including Tom himself, did. August 1989. Tom makes his decision. If the rifle is in a museum, maybe he can finally let go. Maybe he can be Sarah's father instead of the rifle's keeper. Maybe he can stop being a prisoner to 793 ghosts. He calls the museum, agrees to donation. Ask for one condition. Can I bring my daughter to the ceremony? Then he calls Sarah, first time in 3 years. Sarah, I am donating the rifle to the museum. Would you come to the ceremony? I need to explain some things. Long silence. Tom can hear Sarah crying on the other end of the line. Dad, I will come, but not for the rifle. For you, I just want my dad back. Tom's voice breaks. I do not know if that man exists anymore. Sarah's response is the first hope Tom has felt in decades. Then introduce me to the man who does exist. We will start there. October 12, 1989. Montana Military Heritage Museum, 11:30 in the morning. Small ceremony, Dr. Sullivan, Tom, Sarah attending for the first time in 3 years, handful of Korean War veterans who served with the Princess Patricias. Tom holds the rifle, hands shaking, 66 years old now. The rifle 46 years in his possession since that day in Ontario when the quartermaster handed him his father's weapon. Dr. Sullivan asks him to share the rifle's significance. Tom looks at Sarah. She nods. Permission granted. Tom begins speaking and the words that have been trapped inside for 38 years finally emerge. This rifle serial number 47C8492 was manufactured in 1943 at Long Branch Arsenal, Toronto. It was issued to my father, Corporal Robert Brennan, for the Sicily campaign. My father carried this rifle through Ortona, through France, through the Gothic Line. On September 17, 1943, in Sicily, my father used this rifle to kill 18 German soldiers while covering evacuation of wounded men from his platoon. My father died that day. This rifle kept firing after he could not. It saved 17 lives. Tom's voice is steady, factual, the voice of someone delivering testimony. 10 years later, this rifle was issued to me. February 16, 1951, on Hill 166 in Korea, I used this rifle to kill 793 confirmed enemy soldiers. In one morning, I killed 89, maybe more. I lost exact count. The room is completely silent. This rifle never jammed, never misfired, never failed. It fired 4,347 rounds in combat across 54 years and 5 wars. 0 malfunctions. My father used this rifle to save 17 lives. I used it to take 793. Tom's voice breaks now, the facade cracking. I spent 36 years hating this rifle because it reminded me of killing. But that is wrong. He looks down at the Lee Enfield, sees the crack in the stock from when he used it to kill a Chinese soldier in hand-to-hand combat, sees his father's engraving, sees his own addition beneath it. This rifle did not make me a killer. It made me a survivor. It did its job perfectly. It was reliable. It was trustworthy. It never failed. I am the one who failed. Tom turns to Sarah, crying openly for the second time in his adult life. The first time was in 1950 when Hayes told him he was his father's son. This time is different. Sarah, I chose this rifle's guilt over your love. I let 793 ghosts raise you instead of being your father. That was my failure, not the rifles. This rifle brought my father through 3 campaigns. It brought me home from Korea. It kept working even when I could not. I am donating it today because I finally understand. This rifle is not a trophy or a burden. It is a tool that did exactly what it was designed to do. And maybe it is time I do what I am designed to do, be your father. Better late than never. Sarah embraces him. First time in 24 years. Daddy, I never hated the rifle. I hated that you would not talk about what happened. You kept it all inside. You let it eat you alive. I just wanted my dad. A veteran in the audience, age 68, speaks up. Brother, you are not alone. We all carried ghosts home. The difference is you had the courage to face yours. After the ceremony, Dr. Sullivan pulls Tom aside. Mr. Brennan, while researching your rifle, I found something extraordinary. She shows him archived documents, military records, after-action reports, letters. Serial number 47C8492 has a complete service history. Boer War 1899, South Africa. World War I 1916 through 1918. Vimy Ridge and Passchendaele with the Canadian Corps. World War II 1940 through 1943, carried by your father through Ortona and Sicily. After your father's death, the rifle was reassigned, saw service through Italy, France, and Germany. Then Korea with you. 54 years of continuous combat service across 5 wars. Dr. Sullivan pulls out one more document. But here is what I found about September 17, 1943, the day your father died. She shows Tom a casualty report he has never seen, an after-action report written by Sergeant William Hayes. Your father, Corporal Robert Brennan, was part of a platoon pinned down by a German machine gun position. According to Hayes's report, your father left covered position, advanced under fire to flank the German nest. Killed 12 Germans with this rifle, silenced the machine gun, allowed 17 wounded men to evacuate. He was hit by artillery during the evacuation. Died covering the retreat. Dr. Sullivan's voice is gentle. Tom, your father did not die because his rifle failed. He died because he chose to save 17 lives over his own. Exactly like you chose to save Danny Cooper over maintaining your firing position. Tom stares at the document. I never knew the details. My mother only said he died in combat. According to Hayes's after-action report, Dr. Sullivan continues, your father's last words were, tell my son the rifle never fails. Soldiers fail sometimes, but failing to save lives is not really failure. Dr. Sullivan pulls out one more envelope, old, yellowed, postmarked 1972. There is one more thing, Tom. In 1971, Colonel Chen Wei of the Chinese 117th Division wrote a letter to our museum. He had read about Hill 166 in a military history journal. I have been waiting for the right time to share this. She hands Tom the envelope, Chinese characters on the back, English translation paper clipped to the front. Tom opens it, reads, to the Canadian War Museum. I am Colonel Chen Wei, retired Chinese People's Volunteer Army. In February 1951, I commanded forces that attacked Hill 166 near Chipyong-ni. We lost 823 men in 46 minutes. I blamed Canadian machine guns. I blamed superior weapons. I blamed everything except the truth. The truth is Canadian riflemen with old bolt-action rifles defeated modern weapons through superior training and courage. I underestimated the men behind those rifles. That underestimation killed 823 of my soldiers. They died because I failed as a commander. I have carried their ghosts for 20 years, but I also carry a respect for the Canadian soldiers who defended that hill. They fought with honor. They did not torture our wounded. They allowed humanitarian retrieval. They fought as professional soldiers, not as barbarians. I write this letter because I want history to record the truth. The Lee Enfield rifle is not obsolete. The men wielding them are not obsolete. Training, discipline, and courage will always defeat numbers and technology. Please honor the Canadian defenders of Hill 166. They earned it. Colonel Chen Wei, Beijing, 1971. Tom's hands shake, holding the letter. The enemy commander. the man who sent 2,000 soldiers to kill him. Writing 20 years later to say you fought with honor, Dr. Sullivan's voice is gentle. Tom, both sides honored you. Your father's sergeant honored you. Your enemy honored you. When will you honor yourself? Tom understands now, finally, after 38 years. My father and I, we both used this rifle to kill so others could live. We both failed by choosing humanity over duty. And we both thought the rifle failed when really we were just being human. Doctor? Sullivan nods. This rifle has probably killed over 1,500 men across 54 years of service, but it has saved hundreds more. That is what makes it historically significant. Not the killing, the saving. A young man approaches, early 20s. Mr. Brennan, I am Michael Cooper. Danny Cooper is my grandfather. Tom freezes. Danny is alive. Alive and well, 56 years old. He is outside. Did not know if you would want to see him. Tom moves toward the door like a man in a dream. Outside, Danny Cooper stands in October sunlight, white-haired, one-armed, smiling. Tom Brennan, still the best damn rifleman I ever saw. Tom tries to apologize. Danny, I am so sorry. Your arm, I should have stayed on the rifle. I should not have. Danny cuts him off. Stop. You saved my life. I got 38 years I would not have had. 3 kids, 7 grandkids, all because you chose me over the mission. Tom, you carried 793 deaths for 36 years. Let me help you carry them now. Tom breaks down completely. All the grief and guilt and shame of 38 years pouring out. Danny embraces him with his one arm. 793 Chinese soldiers died doing their duty. You did yours. Neither side was wrong. You were both following orders. But you also chose humanity when it mattered. That makes you a good man, not a monster. 1 month later, Tom's house. The rifle is gone to the museum. The wall above the fireplace is empty for the first time in 36 years. Sarah visits with her children, Tom's grandchildren, meeting their grandfather for the first time. Thanksgiving, 1989. The 8-year-old grandson asks the question with innocent curiosity. Grandpa, were you really a war hero? Tom looks at Sarah, at his grandchildren, at the empty wall where the rifle hung for so long. No, son. I was a soldier with a rifle that never failed. But more importantly, I had people who never gave up on me. Your grandmother, Sarah, a friend named Danny who forgave me, and a rifle that taught me the difference between reliability and humanity. The rifle was perfectly reliable. That is why it is in a museum. I was imperfectly human. That is why I am here with you. Sarah asked the question she has wondered about for 38 years. Dad, what happened to that letter you wrote to Mom in Korea, the one you never mailed? I burned it this morning, 38 years too late. But I am writing a new one, to you, to your kids, about what really matters. The grandson persists. What really matters, Grandpa? Tom considers, thinks about his father, about Hayes, about 793 men, about Danny, about Sarah, about a rifle that worked perfectly for 54 years. Heroes are not the ones who never fail. Heroes are the ones who keep trying after they fail, and the people who love them anyway. But Tom's story is not quite finished. There is one more ghost to put to rest. 2003, 14 years after the museum ceremony. Tom, age 79, sits in the public library in Shelby researching Korean War history online. He has done this monthly for years now, reading forums, looking for what he does not know. Forgiveness, understanding, closure. Then he sees a post on a Korean War veterans forum, posted by user Chen Michael SF. The post is dated 3 days ago. My father served in the Chinese 117th Division during the Korean War. He died in 2001, but before he passed, he told me a story that haunted him for 50 years. In February 1951, his unit attacked a Canadian position called Hill 166. They lost over 800 men in less than an hour. But that is not what haunted him. What haunted him was a young soldier from his village, a boy named Zhang Wei, who died in hand-to-hand combat with the Canadian soldier. My father found Zhang's body afterward. Before Zhang died, he whispered his last words. My father carried those words for 50 years. Tell my son I tried to come home. Zhang's son is now in his 60s, lives in Beijing, never knew his father. Just like me, I never really knew mine. War takes fathers and leaves ghosts. If any Canadian veterans from Hill 166 are reading this, my father, Colonel Chen Wei, wrote in his journal that you fought with honor. You were just doing your duty, just like our men. He respected you. He wanted you to know that. Tom's hands shake as he reads, and reads again and again. For 52 years, Tom assumed the Chinese soldier begged for his life, said, please don't, or I surrender, or no. But he did not. He said, tell my son I tried to come home. The same thing Tom's father tried to do in Sicily, the same thing Tom tried to do in Korea, the same thing every soldier tries to do. Zhang Wei was not an enemy combatant. He was a father trying to get home to his son, just like Robert Brennan, just like Tom. Tom closes the laptop, walks outside into the Montana afternoon, sits on the library steps, and cries for the first time in 14 years. Not for himself, not for the 793 men he killed, but for Zhang Wei. For Zhang Wei's son, who grew up without a father just like Tom did. For the universality of war's cruelty. Tom had to kill Zhang Wei, had no choice. Hayes would have died otherwise. Danny would have died. The position would have been overrun. But Zhang Wei also had no choice. He was following orders, trying to survive, trying to get home to his son. 2 fathers, 2 rifles, 2 men doing their duty. One lived, one did not. That night, Tom writes his final letter. Not to Zhang Wei's family. He has no way to reach them, but to himself. Zhang Wei, I am sorry. You were a father trying to get home, just like mine. Just like me, I had to kill you. You would have killed Hayes. I had no choice. But you had no choice either. We were both trapped in something bigger than us. I hope your son knows you tried. I hope he knows you were brave. I hope he knows you thought of him at the end. I know I did. I know my father did. We are the same. All of us, just men trying to get home. Tom seals the letter, places it in the box with the other 47 unsent letters, then burns the entire box in his fireplace that night. He does not need to carry Zhang Wei anymore, or the other 792. They were doing their duty. So was he. That is enough. Text appears on screen museum placard style. Lee Enfield number 4, Mark 1 serial number 47, C8492. Service record 1899 to 1953. 54 years active combat. Estimated rounds fired 15,000 plus. Recorded malfunctions 0. This rifle represents not technological superiority, but human reliability. It never failed the men who trusted it. And it brought them home, if not in body, then in memory. Thomas Brennan, 1923 to 2007. Reconciled with daughter Sarah, 1989. Met 7 grandchildren before his death. Volunteered at Veterans Affairs, 1990 to 2007. Helped 340 plus veterans process combat trauma. Final words to Sarah. The rifle taught me to be reliable. You taught me to be human. Thank you for waiting. Final image. The empty wall where the rifle hung for 36 years. In its place now, a family photograph. Tom, Sarah, 7 grandchildren, 4 great-grandchildren. Thanksgiving, 2006. Tom, age 83, smiling. The first genuine smile in 55 years. The rifle lives in the museum. The man finally learned to live at home.